Okay, we got going live now. Okay, I'm actually live. I've literally been going for 25 minutes at this point, and I'm realizing that I wasn't live that whole time. Okay, welcome back. That's just we're gonna run it back, I guess. Sure. Okay, so welcome to the podcast. Okay, we're live here in Sedona. All right, and that's the way that she goes. But hey, that's what happens, all right? So today, in today's podcast, we are going to deep dive. We are diving deep into my life. And I was already diving deep, but hey, like I said, that's what happens. So that's why I'm late. If you're wondering, hey, why were you not on time? So, anyways, okay, so this podcast is going to be all about how I'll probably refer to this podcast a lot and talk about how the podcast is actually okay. Now I'm clicking buttons on my PC. No, Adobe, I don't want you to open, brother. Okay, simmer, relax. Okay, it's still opening. God is good. Ah, okay, there we go. Okay, we're doing it. We're doing it. All right. So this podcast, we're going to be talking all about my life and how I can relay concepts and realizations to help you to realize things about yourself or your soul or concepts that will help you. And we're just going to dive deep, real deep into this. And now I'm feeling some sort of sense of just some weirdness going on in my body right now. Not really sure. Maybe it's because I just all that just happened, but we're gonna feel it out. We're gonna feel good. So what happened in my life is going to be most of the first part of this episode. Then we're going to be talking about in the second half collectively how things changed in order to benefit humanity. So let's talk about first my life. So, like I was saying, I'm going to refer to this episode probably a lot because this is going to be the one where you actually get to know me in deep levels because I'm going to be talking about everything that's happened in my life and why they happened or my realizations of why they happened. So, we're going to be diving deep, and I might go a little bit deeper than 2020. But I think it's going to be something that's absolutely worth. Okay, so let's dive deep into the first part of this. And so, my life. Where am I going to start with my life? Because it's been a wild one. So, so I never imagined that I would actually be, hey, we're out here. This is real, by the way, in Sedona. And I'm living out of a rooftop tent. And I actually, it's just so wild how I've gotten to this point. So we'll jump into 2019 for a sec because I want you to understand the intricate details of my journey. So 2019. All right, I'm doing my best to look at the camera, but literally the sun is directly above the camera. So it's the way she goes. All right, so 2019. I'm living in this essence of I'm streaming video games. Yes. Okay, I've been gaming for most of my life. All right, and that is one way that I escaped a certain sense of doom that I had because of a lot of reasons. We're talking divorced parents and just feeling so unworthy because externally I didn't feel like I looked the way that my true essence was. And now we're getting pretty close to how I feel my true essence is. And I mean, of course it's not the body, but I knew that I'm talking like high school right now, by the way. In high school I knew that how I looked was not me, right? But I instead of just doing the deep spiritual practice of saying, "All right, well, I guess it's not me. So where am I? What am I?" Instead of going there, I was like, "All right, well, I don't think this body represents me, so I'm gonna try and fix the body." So 2014, a lot of things happen, and we're gonna jump into a very quick rundown of my life when it comes to then 2020. Okay. So 2014, I live again with the I live. I live in this essence of I'm not enough, okay? So I got to lose weight. And then so then I started to lose weight. And then from 2014 to 2020, I lose 115 pounds. All right? But through that and this realization, I get to this point where I start to question reality, all right? So in 2014, I start to question not only how I look and I start to change how I look, but then in 2015, 2016, I get to the point where, okay, I'm starting to look more how I think I look, but I'm still not like I'm not satisfied with like this is not satisfying. And for those that have chased for so long how they look, if you've just been living in this, and I'm still there sometimes, you've been living in this life of okay, I'm not, I don't like how I look, and I don't know what I'm gonna like, but I feel like it doesn't represent me. And when you don't feel beautiful in your own vessel, your own character, your own however you want to put it, right? When you don't feel good in it, you're gonna that takes so much of your energy away. So 2015, 2016, I then start to realize, hey, this isn't even satisfying. Like in terms of it is satisfying because then you feel attractive and then you have this outside physical persona, but then I started to question, is this really me? So then I obviously came to the realization that, like I talk about in so many episodes, that this is not me, right? This body is not me. And as I start to question that, then I start to get into, ooh, well, if I'm not the body, then what am I, right? And then so this is 2016, then 2017, I get to the point where I move out to Phoenix, all right? And I was living in Michigan for most of my life up until then. Then I moved to Phoenix and I was finishing up my kinesiology degree. Okay. Then after 4 years, I drop out with like 8 weeks left to go because I say, okay, school is not for me. So I'm having like a breakdown and I'm having a slow breakdown of all the physical things that society tries or even I was trying to trap myself into in order to feel some sense of worth. Right. And so I eventually just realized, okay, this isn't me. Like school is not me. Like not that I was identifying with school, but I didn't enjoy it and I never enjoyed it, but I was trying to fit into the mold of society. Then at the very end when I could have gotten the piece of paper, I said, "Nah, then that ain't me." So I had the courage to at least do that. So then I started to have a breakdown of just what what am I? And so this is happening on the side as I'm living in Phoenix and then as I'm living in Phoenix, I have these realizations of I'm not actually the body. And then so I wasn't playing video games while I was in Phoenix. All right. And eventually I got to the point where I figured, okay, well I'm not doing school anymore. I'm not really having anything go on. So what am I gonna do? So then I do the smartest thing in the world. And hey, I don't regret it, by the way, because it got me here. But I eventually decided, okay, well, I was working as a server at Red Lobster at that point, and I eventually decided, okay, you know what? I'm just this isn't for me either. And so then I had even more of a breakdown of my self-perceived who I was. So then I started to play video games again to cope, and then I realized, okay, I can't do this. I'm not going to fall into this video game thing again because it served me, but it's not serving me anymore. So then I move back to Michigan to live in the family cabin for months. All right, I did that for probably 5 or 6 months till it got cold, till I couldn't do that anymore. But a big side note is that during this time, when I lived in Phoenix, I was trying to start a business of all of the people who, first of all, I'm just saying, all the people that will relate are the people who have tried this. I feel your pain if it hasn't worked out. I tried to start a Shopify business from 2016 and then on into 2017. And what I mean by Shopify is I basically tried to take Chinese goods, basically what everybody does, like all the big dealers do, and I tried to sell them on Amazon. Okay. So I tried to do that, and I was trying to find a product. But before we get into that, first I was actually trying to start a, and it's important, I was trying to start a business with my roommates at the time. And they were just not working as hard because I was hustle grind, let's get it, at that point. But then they just weren't, I felt like, from my own perception, they weren't working as hard as me. So I was then salty at them. So there was tension, and I didn't really want to live there anymore because we ended up splitting up from the business. And then I was like, okay, these guys are not anything I want to be a part of. And that was my perception at the time. But it was really just my own self who wasn't okay with my own situation externally that was really projecting that they weren't doing enough. So I got to the point where I realized this, and then I decided to take out $10,000 in loans and to move all the way back to the old Michigan and decide, all right, well, I'm going to start this Amazon business and I'm going to do this and I'm going to trust, right? Well, I did that, and it just so turned out that it didn't work. Ah, yeah, that was rough. So all of that was gone. I have no credit. And for those of you that live in America know how important that is for a lot of things. And so my credit is still terrible because of that. So I didn't do it as well as I thought I was going to, because for some reason I had like this inner lethargy towards it. And this is something I've never talked about, but I had like an inner like I didn't try as hard as I could have. And I don't know why I didn't, but I thought this is a mistake. Okay, this is low, like major key alert. Big mistake you can make in this spiritual community or when you're practicing spirituality is like thinking that I can put in minimum effort and I don't have to do anything and I'm just going to find the perfect thing right away. And when I find that perfect thing, it's going to be fine. And I don't have to do any research. I can just straight up trust. And for me, what I found out was that you can't just do nothing and expect everything to happen when your pattern in the past has been to just do the opposite, was to do everything. So I went from trying to control everything to then saying, all right, I'm not going to control anything. I'm just going to let this perfect product come to me and it's going to be so beautiful. And so I tried this 3 or 4 times, and every time I got the product, and I should have ordered way more if I'm talking about successfulness in that, but it's not should have, because I'm okay with how it worked out. But and as far as that goes, it's fine. And I'm at peace with it. No, truly, I truly am. And so that didn't work. I kept getting products and they weren't what I wanted, and then the market would change, and then eventually, faster than I knew it, I had no money. So then, okay, I'm like, well, what do I do? I have nothing left. I have no money. I have no savings. I have no credit. I'm out here. All right. So then I did the one thing that I thought that could make me money and that I would actually enjoy doing. And that was, we brung it back, ladies and gentlemen, back to the video games. And I went back to where I started. And there was this one thing that happened. My brother and our mutual friend Ryan went to a convention, and they like competed in a tournament at that point. And this is what hooked me, because I saw them and I was like, oh my God, I can do so much better because of my previous competitiveness and how well I was doing at video games and how good I was. When I wasn't streaming, I was just playing them for most of my life. I was good. So then that competitiveness was like, oh, okay, I can do this. I can be really good at this because I was good at it, and I see a lot of people making good money doing it. So through reasoning, hey, they did this, they were doing very good. They didn't do very good. I could do better. And, you know, my competitive nature from playing sports a lot of my life and the video games was like, all right, You just got to work hard enough. And if you work hard enough, you got this. You can completely dominate everybody and you'll be good. Right? I was in the toxic doing, the toxic masculine, you could say, of I can just overpower everybody else who's doing it by just being so good. And then when I do that, then everybody will watch me and it'll be brilliant and I'll have enough money and I'll get myself out of debt. And then when I get myself out of debt, then I can do this. I can be the spiritual teacher that I want. Because back since even I made my first YouTube channel way back in the day, I then was like, okay, I can do this. So I made a YouTube fitness channel, and I don't know, I don't think I talked about this in this version of the podcast before I went live. Okay. Anyways, but I had a YouTube channel that I did, and it was a fitness channel, and that I did it for a while, and then I got discouraged, right? I knew that I wanted to teach people how to do stuff from the beginning, but I didn't know how that I was going to do that, and I let imposter syndrome get the best of me, which will never serve you, by the way, because imposter syndrome, I mean, I don't want to say never, but it didn't serve me. And I don't see a situation where it will serve you. And if you got a situation where imposter syndrome, if that serves you, tell me. DM me because I can't find one. So I get to this point where I'm like, all right, I can get online. I can show my face. I feel like physically, I lost all the weight. I look good. I'm a good looking dude. I'm good at the games. It's gotta calculate like this. Boom. We're fitting it together. And I gotta be, this is it, right? This is gonna be it. And I can actually relay spiritual teachings while I'm doing this. But first I gotta get good enough at the games. So then, hello, we're talking me, 2019. Okay, and I know this is gonna be called 2020 Change Everything. So we're getting back there, but we're deep diving. All right. So skip ahead if you don't want to hear about this, but this is important to my journey. So, anyways, we get to the point where we're like, all right, we're good. Like I can finally do something I'm good at and I can make money at it. The dream. But what I didn't realize is that at that point, I could have started doing what I'm doing now had I not been too scared or was too worried about that I wasn't good enough. Because in my mind at that point, everything was about how good you were at something. Because like I said, video games and sports was like, well, if you're not a Michael Jordan of it, then why are you doing it? If you're not like the best, right? Because that's how outside of me, it seemed like that was how I lived. And it's kind of sad, but hey, that's just a way that society teaches you. You have to compete. You have to be better than somebody else, or else you're gonna get lost. You're not gonna be able to do what you really want to do. So then I realize, okay, well, at that point, I'm gonna do this. So I start doing it. I start playing video games. I'm not kidding you. I start playing video games for 16 hours a day. Probably more on some days. I'm not sleeping very much, and I'm just grinding. Like literally the definition of grind. I get so good at video games, and I'm streaming video games the whole time, but I don't do it in a way where I actually can grow. I don't because this is also something I don't think I've ever talked about, is that my perspective looking back at and it tells me that YouTube is not maintaining enough video. Why am I skipping frames? I don't know. That's the way she goes. Okay, so if YouTube is stuttering right now, I'm sorry. There's literally nothing I can do out here in Sedona. So we're doing the best we can. We have really good signal, so I'm not sure why we're skipping frames, but hey. Anyways, so at this point in my life, I'm at this point where okay, I need to compete. I need to be the best. So for a year straight, I play video games all day. And when I'm not playing video games, I literally just watch spiritual stuff. I watch Moji. I watch so much Moji. I mean, I'm so many satsangs. I'm listening to Wayne Dyer audiobooks. I'm reading Inner Engineering, Sadhguru. I'm doing all of these things, and then I start to actually practice, with the yoga and with the qigong. I learned how to do qigong through Eckhart Tolle, and I listen to Eckhart Tolle a lot. And then I'm like, wow, this is it. Like I start to realize there's a split between what I'm doing and then what I really want to do. So at some point, I get to the point where I'm like, okay, I'm getting burned out. Okay, so how do I fix this? How do I not get burned out? How do I not live a life where I'm not enjoying it? I just want to enjoy life and I want to help people. Well, eventually I stopped playing video games so much because I'm actually really good. I don't need to play that much. And then I have a set stream schedule, and then it's only like a couple hours, 3 or 4 hours a day. And then I start to feel not burnout. Okay, we're good, we're doing good. And then I actually start to do really well. I get to start getting a lot of viewers, and people really enjoy what I'm doing because I'm not burnt out. So okay, and then I have my friend. Um, he literally came and lived with me, and did a voice on my stream like an AI voice. Okay. Oh wow, we're getting deep. So then I had the same thing happen with him that happened, that same pattern of you're not doing enough, and him leaving, and it didn't end up well. And I don't think it was just me. So this time it was not just my projections. It really just wasn't working the way that I wanted it to work and the way that I desired it to be at that point, through him not having the right work schedule to actually be there when I wanted to stream and when I was feeling good, and it not being the quality that I wanted, and the vision just wasn't there. So, things don't work out. So I learned a lot of lessons from having him in my life. And and I learned so much with how I handled his exit of my life, and I'm so grateful for that because wow, I realized how much I was projecting onto other people. And so then I start to realize that okay, this is really not fulfilling. Because at one point I had imagined that I was literally going to do, you see what I'm doing here? I'm literally live streaming out in nature. This is exactly at one point what my vision was for video. I was going to play video games and I was going to live stream in nature. That was the goal for a long time for me. And you can see where the source, spirit, whatever you'd like to refer to it as, or even my higher self, decided, okay, what parts of his dream are actually going to serve him and what parts are not serving him. And it literally turned out that live streaming served me, but what didn't serve me was what I was doing while I was live streaming. So we cut that out, and look where I am. Look what I'm doing. It's literally this is exactly what I wanted to do. But I had so much pain giving up live streaming the way that I was because I just, it was the only thing I had. It felt like at that point, this is 2019 Nixai. It was the only thing that I had. Man, I got no money. I got no job. I've got nothing. I've got no credit. And the only thing that I have is literally just this live stream. And if I give this up, what am I going to be? Right? So then I gave it up and I trusted because I felt that inner calling so much. And when I gave it up, my whole sense of just everything that I thought that I was, I just completely let go of. And I completely entered into the state of nothingness, of just completely, what am I? And following the teachings that I had learned. So as I just started to drop the illusion of an identity, I then realized that I truly am nothing. I'm no thing from this reality. And as I started to come to this realization, I started to dig myself up, actually more like just levitate, because it was actually really easy. Once I started to really realize who I really was, and that was nobody, nobody. I was no thing. That I wasn't from this reality, and I was that this reality. And at first, I started to get into a lot of simulation theory with Elon Musk, which I had to clear because the way that I interpreted that was very negative. Then I had a lot of the Matrix stuff, which brought me to a lot of realizations, but then I had a lot of negative connotations with it because, well, I'm just I'm a battery. I'm nothing else but that. So then I just had to basically let go at the end of 2019 and really into 2020. 2020 for me was just literally letting go of everything that I thought I needed to have, anything I desired, anything that I thought that I was. And once I fully started to just embrace the unknown, and really the unknown is in, I don't need to control anything. I can just be, right? I can just be here now in this moment. And it doesn't matter what's happening outside of me because I'm just so fulfilled in just straight being. So then when I'm just, and this is now we're in the part where we're just at the start of 2020, right? I'm just in this point where, wow, I have to at some point in my life make this discernment, and I can either wait until 5, 10 years from now, or I can actually have the courage to say, oh, my life is not a determination of what I'm doing. Because everything outside of me, and I've learned a lot about this through human design, but everything in my design tells me that I'm meant to live a life of trying things. And when I try to do things, and it may not work, learning from that, but not necessarily considering that a failure, right? Because I had to eventually decide, okay, I'm done. I'm done trying to say what life is, what life should be. And when I finally just gave that up at the start of 2020, and I just said, let's just not do. Let's just stop doing. And let's finally be okay with who I am right now. And that's nothing. And that's nobody. And I'm here and I exist. And I started to tune into the eternal existence, into love. And I started to realize what life had to offer, and that love is always here. And I say this in all my videos, and a lot of the times I think a lot of people don't hear it because it's so simple. It's so simple that love is surrounding us, like the Force, you could say, in Star Wars. If you want to take an analogy road, we could do that. That there is this force that lives within everything, that created everything, that we are just participating in. And so I'm just a participant in reality through my soul essence, through basically, I teleported myself into this body to experience this reality, but I'm not anything from it. I'm not the mind I'm not even anything that I'm experiencing right now. Like, I'm not even this. What you see, this is not me. This is just an experience. I'm experiencing what it's like to be Nick Zai. I'm experiencing what it's like to live stream. But I'm not these things. I'm not determined. My self-worth is not determined by doing. Because as long as your life is determined by doing, you will never truly, ever feel complete fulfillment, because there will always be something else. Because I've learned more than anybody, once I did something, man, hey, I finally weigh and I look the way that I want to look. Am I fulfilled? No, because then there's something else. There's always something else. So I eventually, at the start of 2020, came to realize that as I started to post online, it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks about what I'm doing. It doesn't matter even what I'm doing. The only thing that matters, even if you want to say any of it matters, but the only thing that will bring me to a state where I'm not suffering anymore is literally just being okay with being. And so as I start to master being okay with being, then I'm finally, oh, okay, now we're fulfilled. Wow, this whole time I could have felt fulfilled. This whole life I could have felt fulfilled just by literally being, like, being okay. And that you can literally tune in to being okay right now. What? You're telling me I lived all these years trying to do things in order to feel fulfilled, and then it's all about, you don't even have to, Oh my God. So then I start to like get angry at myself because I'm like, oh, well, I could have been this way the whole time. And I was like, oh my God, really? That's all it takes. Okay. And sometimes it's not that simple because you have so much programming of being a certain way. So then a lot of the times we can consciously think, okay, well, as long as and I'm okay right now, so I'm good. But then the programming starts to come up. And this is huge because if you actually want to change, you have to realize at some point that your state of being is the most important thing. And that when you do this, your mind that you're using to experience, it's not really yours, but this mind that you're using to experience is programmed more than likely against that. So then, hey, wait a sec. I have to actually reprogram myself. So, hey, Dr. Joe Dispenza, how you doing, buddy? I literally just started to go down the Dr. Joe Dispenza path of just understanding the science behind the brain and rewiring the brain. So then I finally start to understand how the mind works and that I actually don't even have to give attention to these thoughts when they come up and that I can be okay and I can be in gratitude. And when I'm not in these states, because I know, trust me, that you're not going to be feeling good a lot of times, and especially at the beginning, you just don't, it's literally as simple as just understanding that you can't control these thoughts that come up. I'm sorry, you can't. You can try. You can think that you're controlling them, but the only thing that you can do is realize that you're the inspector of the thoughts. You're the player in the game, my friend. And that the only way that you can really learn how to play this game to its fullest potential is then understanding that I can just decide where I give my energy. And we can go as deep as talking about there could be some entities, some beings that are sucking that energy up if you're in lower level emotions, and that's a big thing. Okay, but that's a whole podcast by itself. So what I'm really referring to is actually the light side of that, you could say. We're just realizing, hey, okay, we're good. We're good with all the stuff that's happening in my life. And when I'm not feeling good, I'm just going to consciously choose to accept and to feel what life is bringing towards me, these thoughts that are coming, but I don't have to be there. I can give it space, but then I can discern where I want to actually put my energy. Because really, law of attraction is just where are you going to put your attention? Because, hey, if you want desire something, this is major key alert to actually finding things like that you actually enjoy. What do you really want to do with yourself in this life? Wherever you put your attention is what you're going to get back. It's that simple. It's literally an echo. Okay? Think of it like an echo. You're acting, doing, being. It's just echoing back to you. It's literally like, it's literally like Jim Carrey in The Grinch, where he says, "I'm an idiot." He literally gets, "You're an idiot," back. That's reality in a nutshell. That's law of attraction, baby. That's it. Like, just understand that you're getting that, but it's not instant, okay? What I mean by that is if you think some negative thoughts, you have a bad day, it's not going to come back to you like, oh God, boom, I'm getting blasted with life is terrible. It's all bad. And that's all that's going to happen. No, Chief. Wait, your attention is kind of like, I imagine it almost like a teeter totter. I don't know. I'm getting these weird analogies right now. But if you think about it, life is like a teeter totter. If you have these things that you really want, if you start to put your energy towards that, that energy is going to compound, and you're going to start to get that thing that you want on the end of the teeter totter. It's going to start coming to you real quick. Okay, and then when these negative thoughts come, I'm not saying to bypass them. I'm just telling you, my friend, that if you really start to bring it back and you realize, okay, these thoughts are not my thoughts, but I'm feeling and acknowledging these feelings, okay? Then you start to clear the feelings. You start to clear the stuck energy. And you start to realize that maybe even these thoughts are actually just egregores. They're just coming in the air. these thoughts actually aren't me. Oh, wait, so shoot. So you're telling me that these thoughts that are coming in are actually just like could be negative beings? Even some thoughts. Some thoughts could be negative beings that are sending out vibrations and I'm just picking up on them. Shit. Okay, so I'm not identifying with my thoughts as much, even if they're good. I'm just realizing what I'm desiring. Because if you identify with your thoughts, that's another podcast too. So we're getting into the point where I start to identify with nothing, but I'm just realizing what I desire. I desire love, right? I desire to enjoy life. And I start to concentrate on what I'm actually having, what I'm actually have already. So then as I, February, start to make videos, I'm realizing as I'm putting out content this. At first, it was the opposite. Then I'm realizing, okay, we're getting it. We're finally getting it. Now we're to the point where we're good. Okay, we're good because we're being good. We're not doing good, we're being good. Because I don't want to live in the illusion of doing good because I know that that leads to, I need to do more, do more, do more, do more. But I just want to bring it back. I want to bring it back into just stillness. I just want to be okay with who I am. Because when I go to bed at night, I want to know I'm okay because I'm okay with where I'm at, not what I'm doing. Because it just feels so good to be okay with yourself. And not the illusionary self, but just finding your true nature, as in your soul, connecting with your soul, with your higher self. So then I start to do this, and I'm posting videos, and I'm doing pretty good. I start to connect, I start to branch out, baby. And then when we start to feel around, we start to realize, hey, I want to do a podcast. I want to start connecting with those beings that are like me. So then I do my first podcast with Becca Komar. Shout out, Becca Komar. I start to do, like literally, I start to do the podcast, and it went amazing. And then she kept linking me up with people, and eventually she links me up with. Well, first of all, before I get there, I want to say that even in this experience, I realize while I'm doing this, and this is why being has been one of the greatest things that I've ever done for myself, is being okay with my being. I start to realize that, oh, well, my podcast videos aren't doing as well as my other videos. Why? I don't know. I don't have an answer. I could speculate and go down that path, but I realized that, oh, well, I actually, and my being is okay, but I actually enjoy doing so much I enjoy this podcast so much. Okay. And then I start to realize it's during this whole time that nobody really cares about what you're doing. I hear a bee. Huh. There's somebody flying a drone. Okay. Well, we got somebody's getting a drone shot of. Hey, I don't know where you are. I have headphones on. I don't know what direction. I have no directional awareness right now. But anyways, we get to the point where big realization in my life during this time is that nobody really cares about what you're doing. People have opinions, but they don't really care. Most people. And better yet, it doesn't matter. Let me get up real close to you. It literally does not matter what anybody thinks about what you're doing. Ever. Ever. And if you can really realize that, and you can care about, like, other people can care about what you're doing, but it really doesn't matter what their perception is. Then you free yourself from so much. And I'm not saying don't take other people's perspectives and take them as consideration, but just don't take them as fact. Don't take them as your truth. You got to start to develop your own. I started to develop my own shake and bake, my own willpower, my own sense of purpose. And my own purpose was in being, not doing. That's major key. So then when I was there, then I started to branch out. Okay, hey, we're branching out. Okay, we've covered a lot of my life already. Wow. I can't believe that I just threw my life together into like a half an hour. Wow. Okay, that's the way she goes. But we get to the point where I did my first podcast with Becca Komar, and she links me up with people, and I start doing podcasts. And we get to the point where, oh, okay, I meet people and I start connecting, and this feels really good. This feels amazing. I'm gonna keep doing this. So then I get to a podcast E, which I'd never actually released, which is Jesse, which you will probably know from my page. Okay, and we met through the podcast. This is where you're gonna really truly get the 2020 because it starts to get real. It starts to get real wild. Okay, and the sun is literally right behind the camera, so that's why I'm squinting. Okay, so ooh, I meet her, and we don't actually. We are just friends for a while, and I make a group. Woo! I make a group. This is actually. It's just so wild. I make a group of because I'm living in Michigan. Brother, drones above me. God is good. Okay. Man, I fly drones during my videos. All right, somebody's doing it for me. Send me that footage, brother. All right, and we got so much going on behind us. So many distractions. I'm trying. Oh my god! And then there's Jeep tours going down the road. Okay. So we get to the point where I meet Jessie, and she's a part of this group that I make. Okay, and this is a big thing for a while. I make this group of people who literally the group is for people that want to go on a trip to Sedona. Hey, hey, what do you mean? I'm, but I'm here though. But I live here though. Okay, so how much did the drone is literally right next to me? Why, dude? That's the same drone from like the other day. Okay, I don't know if you can hear it. I'm sorry for the distractions. Jeez. You could probably see it. You could probably see it. It's literally okay. It's the same drone, brothers and sisters. Okay, you know. All right, that's fine. So, hey, so the group was for people that was in. The people were for the group was for people that wanted to visit Sedona. Okay, so I learned so much from the group. Jesse's part of the group. I have Jesse and my friend Spencer, who is junk DNA, and Jesse is joyfully human. And so we make another group about people. Let's get people that are serious about going to Sedona to do a CE5. We're getting real deep about details. I don't know if this matters. It matters. Yes, it matters. So the people, I'm going to get to it. The people that wanted to do the CE5, and that's about making contact with ETs. So we make this group, and I start to get this sense of like, okay, I'm starting to figure out exactly what I want. I want to build a community, and I want the community to be people who are like-minded, and I want to help people, and I want to actually help people in person. So I'm just going to put that out there to the universe that like I'm doing retreat centers, okay? And I don't know when that's coming, but retreat centers are the vibe eventually. Coming to a town near you, maybe, or I'll see you soon, maybe. But we're gonna do that. So speaking in public and speaking in the retreat centers is like the goal. But this is what I start to realize. I want people who are gonna do this. I want people who are like-minded in this way. And so I start to narrow down the group, and then the group breaks up. And during this time period, Jesse comes to visit me in Michigan. I'm in Michigan, right? So at this point, just to bring it together in a cohesive format, is that I I stopped streaming video games in 2019, like I said, and then 2020 I'm just making videos, and I'm doing better, and I'm doing better, and I'm getting better. And then eventually she comes to visit me, and we were just friends again. We were just friends at that point, and then we started to then realize, oh, okay, well, this is fantastic. I enjoy spending time with you. Not even at first, it really was not even in a way that was like romantic in that trip. And so we get to this point where we're just like, okay, well, oh shit. Like we are here, we're camping. Like we're camping, and I'm trying to give this to you in a format where it actually makes sense. But there's so many details. So we're camping in Michigan. Like she comes and we're literally camping in a tent, not in a ground tent, but we're out in nature, baby. Like out there. And we actually were just like, wow, this is great. We could do this full time. Like we could do this we could do this like for in the future. And then again, it just keeps repeating is that somehow I get to this point where life just says, "Hey, we're gonna keep taking things." Like it took the live streaming part of me and video gaming, and it said, "Video games, nah, bro, that is not serving you. We need you to." And I don't even know. It's not we, but the universe basically said, "Okay, I need you to separate where you're suffering from what's serving you." So then, if I'm just looking at my life and I'm seeing that for you, I'm sure you just got to find that there might be things that are serving you, but not fully. So, like, you might be in a relationship. The relationship part might be serving you, but the person you're with might not be. Or, like, just like I'm saying with live streaming, you making videos may be serving you, but what you're making videos of, what I was making videos about with fitness, the fitness part didn't serve me. It did in a way because it was helping people, but that's what it is. I'm just like realizing and I'm coming to these conclusions that, ho, 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 ho. We're just going to lean back and let life decide where I'm going to let go of control. We're leaning back, lean back. And then we get to the point where we're just like, okay, I give up. Like, I'm not going to try and decide what's good for me. I'm just going to let things happen. So then Jesse's here in Michigan, well, is in Michigan. And we are at the point where it just starts to really get cohesive. And nothing frisky happened during that time period because she was still in a relationship. So then while she was there, she decided that in her best interest, out of her own free will, she decided, okay, well, this is what I want. And so then she decided to go with that. And she did. And as she did that, that was tough. And literally, a lot of shadow work, a lot of stuff came up during that. And I literally can't see, just so you're aware, because literally, the sun is just beautiful sunset, but I can't see the screen because I'm like literally sun gazing by looking at you. So you're welcome. Commitment. All right. So we're at the point where I realize, okay, well, I'm letting her do her thing. She did her own thing. She decided she wants to be with me, and I decided I wanted to be with her. So then we just started down that journey. We had no idea what's that's gonna look like, because she lived in Phoenix at that point, and and I lived in Michigan, and it was like, wow, what are we gonna do? So this is just like completely wild. So this is I'm not saying that the first part of this podcast wasn't wild, but this is more, I guess, clearer because it just happened. I think I see Dave Shine on there. What up, brother? I see you. Hey, okay, so literally, we get to the point where I decide, okay, well, I want to be with Jesse, like in physicality, and I want to do this. And so then I'm still making videos at this point. I'm still doing my thing, and then I'm starting to, and I'm really disconnected from my sense of purpose being by doing. Actually, let's rephrase that. My sense of purpose is not from doing at this point. It's from being. So then I'm so happy. I'm so unconditionally in the frequency of love with just my own sense of not like an ego love. This gets complex, but I'm going to try and get this. I'm not in love with anything in particular, but rather I'm in full acceptance and love with the whole experience of life. So then that's what I told Jesse. Like, you do whatever you want to do. Like, there's like it, I'm just so complete. I'm so completely. Oh, I'm good. That it doesn't matter what what happens outside of me, and that's how I live. And she knows that, and she's pretty much there herself. So we then, as two whole and complete people, decided to be together. And then, so this is where it gets complex because then I decided, okay, well, I'm going to move Jesse. I want to move Jesse to Michigan. So then I talked to my mother at that point, who I'm living with because of like all the situation. Now, you know why I was living there because of all that I just talked about. So I said, okay, well, you we have a great relationship, me and my mom do. And so I'm like, all right, can we move her here? And she literally is so on board that she says as long as I get to invite her. Okay, fine. So then she invites Jesse to live with me, and and then I'm like, all right, well, I'm gonna go down there. I'm gonna get this. I'm gonna do this. I'm going to move her to Michigan. So then I travel down, and this is where you see like this is where the Unify video came from because I went down there, and we slowly made our way back. All right. So right after I kid you not, like a day after we get to Michigan, we and I'm not trying to just tell you my life story here. There are like the realizations that I'm having at this point, and I hope you can hear the drone. But the realizations that I'm having at this point is that, okay, well, I understand that I'm doing the best that I can outside of me, and I'm still good. I'm still good. I'm still good. Life is good. Life, no matter what happens, and I'm using modalities. I'm using practices, qigong, meditation, as what they are, practices, and I'm practicing gratitude so that that becomes my state of being. So then, as I've done that for years, I'm now in this place. And so then Jesse moves to Michigan. Then the day afterward, we go to Tennessee because we had decided before, even Jesse, me and my family have decided to go on a trip to Tennessee and we were going to rent a motorhome. So then we rented a motorhome and then I went to Tennessee. And during this time, it was so hard. I remember trying to post content and not and be inspired. And so then my huge struggle of 2020, and it says we're cutting out on YouTube again. Whatever. We're doing it. We're doing the best we can. Again, literally what I'm saying. So in Tennessee, I'm my biggest struggle. One of my biggest struggles of 2020 was actually feeling like I'm doing enough. And that relates to being again, and that has been one of the biggest lessons of my life. Has been balancing those things. So we get to Tennessee, and then my mom just has a complete, I don't even know what you would call it. She completely 180s on Jesse. And when I ask her what she 180s on Jesse about, she has no answer. No true, no specific reason. So this starts to happen with Tennessee. Like I'm in like full on, and this is why I didn't post. I don't think I posted anything from my Tennessee trip, and I filmed a whole video and I never posted it. And a big lesson that I learned there was that you can't change people's own discernment. Like if they feel a certain way, trying to impose your own perspective on top of their perspective a lot of the times will literally just result in you suffering because a lot of people are strong-willed, and I'm not saying everybody is, and I'm not saying it's not worth it to talk to people, but when you realize that even the people close to you aren't going to accept the way that you are seeing things, and that could be just that you're spiritual, even on the basic sense. If they aren't accepting of the way you are, the best thing that you can do a lot of the times is literally just accept that they feel that way. And this has been such a lesson for me too. It's just accepting that life is a certain way for me and that people are perceiving life a certain way. Like a lot of the times, a lot of my life, I've been mad at, let's just jump into this for a hot minute. Not even a minute, a second. I've been mad at the collective consciousness of humanity for a minute. In the past, I've been mad because I feel like, don't you guys see? Don't you see what's happening? Like outside of you? And then, like, that's my ego trying to, like, impose my own, like, don't you see the control mechanisms are in place, and that there are things happening behind the scenes that may are definitely not what they seem. And why are you not looking at, like, why things are the way they are, and why are you just going through life suffering? Like, you're not trying to ask yourself the basic question of, why am I suffering? And so then you start to do that, and I start to do that, and I start to realize that no matter what anybody else collectively, or even I think about what anybody else thinks, that doesn't matter as well. So these are the two realizations. Like, two of the big ones. It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks about what you do, and it doesn't matter what you think about what anybody else does. Because both of those will be suffering. So then when you finally realize that when you try and impose your will, or you take other people's wills in, or perceptions, when you finally just realize, okay, oh, I'm done. I'm done with what other people think, and I'm done with what I think. This is the thing that will set you free massively in your life, because then you start to just let life be the way that it is. And then when you just let it be, then you let yourself be, because then the third realization is that it doesn't matter what you think about what you do in one way. Because a lot of the times what you think about what you do from lower level emotions is actually your ego confirming your bias that you are not worthy in some way. So then when you finally realize that I am not even the thoughts that are telling me that I'm not worthy, or I'm not good enough to do things, or I'm not this, I'm not, when you finally just realize that the only thing that you are is you are that I am. I am is your truth. In that outside of I am being that you exist. Everything else is subjective. Everything but that is subjective. So that when you realize this, then you can have your own subjective experience, but you don't impose your own will. Big 2020 lesson. You don't impose your own will on others, and you don't let others impose their will on you. You look at life and you are okay. You're okay. And that whatever your perspective is enough. And that you just try and find ways to be, and that's it. That your being is just, okay. Okay, we're just being. And that's been like the biggest lesson of 2020. And for me, is just being. And then you start to do, like I said many times in this episode, you start to be. And then you start to do from your being, and then your being is just beautiful. So then once I stopped imposing my own understanding of how I think she should think about Jesse, which I didn't stop doing for a while. That's been a tough one for me, is that eventually I just came to realize this truth, that I can't control how other people think. But what I can do is can control my experience. I can control what I want to include in my reality and what I don't want to include in my reality. So I didn't want to include the butting heads in my reality. And I'm like, well, where is this butting heads coming from? It's coming from a perspective that, and it's fine that I don't agree with it, but it's causing me and somebody else that I care about suffering. So if I can remove myself from this situation, then I'm going to do it, right? I'm not going to live in a way that I don't have to. If somebody else is causing other suffering, or is projecting how they feel about others, or somebody onto me, right? If somebody's trying to make me choose between somebody else, I'm going to choose the other person who's not making me choose, because That's the literal thing that I'm talking about, is trying to control how other people see things, right? So then I stop and I say, okay, you know what? I'm not gonna worry about how you control how you see her, rather. And then as far as that goes, I'm just gonna live. I'm gonna live and I'm gonna figure it out. So then I decide, all right, well, we're out. Literally just decide we're out. And I left. And then this is, where are we? This is 2 months ago. This is 2 months ago. Yes. About 2 months ago. I decided that we're done. We're done with this. We're done with how this works. And we're just going to completely, as the sun literally sets, we're just going to completely be done with it. So then we just, all right, you know what? That's not what we desire. That's not how we want to live. We want to live a life that is loving, and we want to live with people that are also loving towards us. So we just bounce. And I know I say that lightly, but we're finished. And so I'm gonna see where I'm at on this ND filter. Looks like the sun's setting, so I'm gonna take this off. So you can still see me on YouTube if you're on Spotify. Hope you're enjoying this commercial break. Oh, he's bright. Okay. Anyways, we're good. You can see me now. All right, so we are at the point finally where we don't know what the hell we're gonna do. We don't know who we're gonna live with. We don't really want to live with anybody, but we don't have a place to stay. So at first we say, okay, we're gonna get a motorhome, and that was our intention, was to get a motorhome of some kind to live in. And so the guy kind of screws us around a little bit, you could say, and he doesn't really answer us, and we think we're gonna get this one, and through a lot of shenanigans later, we didn't get it because if you just so you know, if you want to get a motorhome, you need to have 2 years worth of taxes already being self-employed. You can't be self-employed and get a finance, even if you have perfect credit, on a motorhome. So that's something I didn't know. So we learned that eventually. And so we literally learned that that's the truth. Okay, well, what are we gonna do? We can't get a motorhome. We don't have enough money to get to buy a motorhome straight up because they're expensive, and we don't really have enough. We don't have anything to pull anything because we got this Mazda. As you see in my videos, we have a Mazda, right? That's Jessie's car that she had. So we have this Mazda, and we can't really pull anything with it because it's not strong enough. I mean, it just doesn't have towing capacity. So we really don't have any options. So no options left, really. And what are we gonna do? Because can't get the motorhome, can't really buy anything, can't even really pull anything. So what are we gonna live out of? We really don't want to live with anybody. We know that for a fact. So then we end up in, where did we go first? We end up near my dad, who lived in Indiana, and they kindly got us a hotel for 3 or 4 days. And so then we still think we're getting a motorhome, and then we think it's in Texas, so we're trying to go towards Texas. And shout out to Dave again, because Dave is in Texas. We're going to do a podcast if he's still here. We're doing a podcast when it comes to Texas, when it gets warmer. Right now, Sedona's nice. So, anyways, we're trying to make our way to Texas because of the motorhome. And we realize that Wind, who is a mutual friend of us now, who was Jesse's best friend, that, okay, well, hey, she literally this is so wild. The compassion of some people. Her parents let us stay with them in St. Louis for a week. When my own brother, nothing wrong with my brother, but him and his girlfriend said that we could stay there for 2 days. It is what it is. So that was my other option, because I have one brother, and I was like, that's my only sibling. And we're like, oh, 2 days? That's really not that long. So we didn't really want to go the Tennessee route, because we had a couple options in Tennessee, and they just weren't for longer than a couple days. And I was like, well, I don't know what to do. So then the St. Louis, as we were like, okay, I guess we might as well go to Tennessee, we just made our way to actually St. Louis. So then St. Louis, yes, We made it to St. Louis, and we think, okay, we're still getting this motorhome, right? Then in St. Louis, we realize, hey, no, you're not. No motorhome for you. So we find that out in St. Louis that the guy's basically screwing us around. I got my Mexican blanket on because the sun went down. It's getting cold. So no motorhome. So we have really no options left. And then I realized, oh my god, what have I been doing on YouTube in my free time when I'm not looking at spiritual stuff? What is the stuff that I just kind of naturally was drawn to? It was filmmaking and it was overlanding. And so I knew a lot about rooftop tenting. I knew a lot about living on the road. And I literally, and then at, at that point in my life, before this, I thought, well, that's because I'm going to live on the road and stream video games at first. And then that evolved into, oh, I'm just going to live on the road. Like I said, life eventually will take things that don't serve you. And like once you fully let them go, you realize that, oh, there was still good in what I wanted. So then finally I realized, hey, woo, we're going to live on the road. And I know a lot about rooftop tenting. And I didn't mention that to Jess too much because at first she was like, nah, chief. nah, 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 nah. And we're going to get into that in the next episode I'm going to do here on live on YouTube and on the podcast, those wherever you're listening. That's going to be about what rooftop tenting is like and how we got there. So I don't want to get too much into the nitty gritty of that. And I'm sure she wants to share her perspectives on that as well. So what I finally realized is that, okay, I actually wanted to rooftop tent this whole time, but we had to not get the motorhome in order for her to actually explore the option because in her mind, she had no idea what rooftop tenting was about. This is my perspective. And again, we'll get into hers. She had no idea what rooftop tenting was about, and it was just like living kind of primitively. And why would I want to live out of a rooftop tent when I can live out of a motorhome? And I get it. But then the motorhome was out of the picture, and it was like, okay, we really don't want to live with anybody. So we didn't want to live with her parents. My parents, no. Her parents were no for me because I didn't want to live with them. Because I just don't. I want to have my own space, and you know that. You know that as as a sovereign being, a lot of times you want your own space. So eventually, I was like, okay, do you want to do this? And so we started to look into it. And like literally, I kid you not, from the moment that I mentioned it to her, literally, I mentioned it to her one day. And within 3 days, we had a roof rack and a rooftop tent. And we were literally gone. So we left St. Louis and with a rooftop tent. And then you can see that vlog on YouTube here. And now you can actually see the visuals of what I'm talking about. So we eventually get the rooftop tent life going. Then we get to our parents and we start to reorganize. You know, I build some shelves and we get it actually livable. So we do that and then the platform breaks and we have all these mishaps. But I'm learning that, oh my God, all I had to do this whole time, this whole life experience was literally just asking me to just trust in not me. Because trusting in you is kind of like limiting, to say the least. Because when you just trust in what you think you know, again, that's your perspective. And when you think you have the conditions and everything right for what you think that you want, then you're living in this illusion because there's this reality. If anything, I realized in 2020 that this reality is so massive that I'm being guided. I'm being shown that there's so much more to life that I don't know about. And then all I had to do from the beginning was trust. And let me tell you, trusting oh, trusting leaving Michigan was probably the hardest yet easiest trust I've ever had. And so this is why my content, it's not really content, but this is why what I've been posting has been kind of like slim and it's kind of been all over the place because this is what's been going on in 2020. It's been the most wild thing. Like, I don't know where I'm living. I don't have any, like a lot of the 3D stuff that I thought I had figured out was like, wait, not serving you. Boom, bye, see you. And then I started to realize what's actually serving me. And that's trusting and living from a state of being complete no matter what happens. And that's very hard. Speaking from experience, for me, it was very hard when your life is just completely up in the air. So now that my life is kind of at least has some stability, even though I'm rooftop tenting and I have, those daily things that you don't think adds up. We'll get into this in the rooftop tent video or podcast, but you don't think getting water adds up time. You don't think unpacking and packing takes a lot of time, and all those things you didn't have to deal with, but it's like you either have to make a decision if you're thinking about rooftop tenting. Would you rather have your own complete sense of you can go anywhere in the world, you can do anything, but yeah, you're going to have to pack up for 5, 10 minutes, maybe 20, sometimes 30, sometimes an hour, because you're really unpacked. Like you have your whole life in a car. It's freeing, but at the same time, there's so much that goes into it daily that there is a sacrifice. But to me, 100% worth, and it's the best thing I've ever done when it comes to my own. It's actually, I would not say it's the best thing I've ever done. It's the best decision. I'm so happy with how I see. When you say good and bad and best and worst, then you start to put judgments on life. And like I'm saying, my limited perspective doesn't know what was the best for me because I don't really know what all these potentialities were. I can like tap into like a couple, maybe 100, but there's infinite amount of potentials for me at any given moment. So I'm just trying to lean back into what I think I know, and I'm trying to actually come into the space of I'm not trying anymore. I'm actually just doing. I'm doing what I can daily, and I'm being. Again, wow, I've talked about that a lot. So now we're almost got up to present moment, and I don't even think it took that long. Oh wow, we've been going for an hour and a half. Ha! I was wondering. I was like, hey, the sun went down pretty quick. Okay. It's probably an hour because I had that shenanigans happen at the beginning. But so I'm at this space where we finally are here, and that I realize that I and you are completely free in every moment. And that all I had to do was trust. All I had to do was believe in my own ability to trust. And that when I finally just gave up, and I gave up, I literally was reborn into this being that you see in front of you, into this formless essence that is incarnated into this body, into this player of this game who's not actually the player. I'm actually the observer of the game, and that I'm actually playing the game through the body, through the senses. And I'm actually here just doing this. And when life allows you to do this through you allowing yourself to do it, everything that I've ever dreamed about has come true. So that's my life. That's my life in 2020. And then collectively, dang, it got darker than I thought it was going to be. I feel like collective 2020, I'm going to go over it quickly. I might make a full video, but it's getting cold real quick. So I'm just going to drop into this. Collectively 2020 was about change. It was about allowing yourself to change because the collective is literally just a collection of all beings. So as this breakdown happened at a faster frequency because the earth was supporting through the Schumann resonance, we can measure that. The earth was supporting us through giving us higher vibrational frequencies, which then showed us our darkness more and more, that it gave us an event outside of us to show us how dark we were and how controlled we really were. And that it's going to keep doing that even into 2021 and into the future because it's just going to be higher and higher frequencies. So where our discernment is not being met fully, we're going to be shown, and you're going to be shown until you fully decide to take, not control, but you fully decide to discern what's serving you and what's not. And you realize that, oh, a lot of the things that society promotes are not serving us. And a lot of different practices that are being promoted for you to do right now because of what's happening outside of you are not serving you. And there's agendas, and the agendas are actually seeming like they're bad, and they are technically, they're not bad because nothing is good or bad. It just is, like I'm talking about. But these projections of fear that are happening in this big projection that we're dealing with is actually allowing us to clear our own biggest shadow, which is our own ability to tune into our own self and to come back from the rat race. Because society right now is being given a gift at the same time as being shown a shadow, which technically is the same thing. We're merging the two into one. You're getting the gift of being and you're stopping all the doing that you were doing in life pre 2020 actually, and that we're actually now in this space of, hey, 2020 is making us slow down, and yeah, they're trying to take control of you more, but this is giving you a chance to see where they're trying to take control of you more, and that to resist other people's imposing of their will again, back to that they're trying to impose their will on you, but you're trying to say, nah, chief, this is what I really desire. And that when you find out this truth, and it's not the full truth, this is, like I said, I'm a seeker of the truth. So I'm seeking this truth, and this is my current perspective, that we will overcome. And it will take time because it's going to have to get worse. Because, as you know, there's a lot of people out there that aren't listening to and they're still not seeing through the programming. And so it's going to take some deep, dark programming in order for them to see through that the will that they think that they're having is not theirs. The things that they're trying to do are not actually what they're trying to do. Because they're not going to see through the illusion and see that they're being controlled until it gets bad enough to where they're doing something completely against what they thought they wanted. Because right now, people think that they want to protect people, so they're doing certain things. They think that they want to, be loving, so they're doing certain things. But it will take a minute for people to realize, because they're so deep in their own traumas, that this is not, society does not have their best interest. Society does not have what they really desire, which is to be loved in peace. That there are entities behind the scenes that are actually completely opposite in their inversion of the scales of consciousness, the themes of consciousness, the levels of consciousness, that are doing the opposite. And they think what they're doing is good, but it's actually the opposite. So it's going to take time for society to then, in 2021, and we'll get into my 2021 video soon, but 2020 was a year of change and the year of people waking up. And so there's going to be people that are too deep in their own stuff to then see their own shadows. So eventually they will be shown it, but just hold the path, hold the highest frequency, because what does the highest frequency do? Like I'm talking about, the highest frequency will then allow them to see their own shadows, because that's what the frequencies do. That's what higher frequencies do. Higher vibrational things do. They show us our darkness. So if we can hold the highest vibration, if we can hold love, even when we are not getting love outside of us, when we can feel complete, even though society is not relaying that we're complete outside of us, we're in the highest vibration. We're holding that for those that cannot, and that it will put you in the timelines, first of all, where society wins in terms of the reinvention of the way that things are will happen sooner, because you're part of the collective, the collection of beings that are holding that higher timeline. So the timeline, the egregore, will change based on how many people are there, because things will not change until enough people believe it will change, if you just want to look at it in a general perspective. So when people can then decide, okay, things are going to change because it's time, people see through the illusion by us holding the higher frequencies, then one, we're happy, two, they will see sooner. So that is the way. Not the only way, but this is the way to freedom for yourself. This is the way to understand that you are your own being. You will always, even in the darkest of nights, have the choice to feel free. It's just up to you whether you have the courage, whether you have the willingness whether you have the acceptance to accept the way things are outside of you and the way things are inside of you. And when you can do both of these things simultaneously, this is mastery. Because you can fully master this reality by, as Jesus would say, you can overcome this world. So, how do you overcome this world? You overcome your inner reality, which seems as though it is in discord, and you overcome the outer reality by realizing that it is all one. It is all happening to show you your greatest potential and to show other beings, which are essentially you in oneness, your greatest potential, which is love. And so, as love is here right now, and as more beings realize this, as we overcome the world by transcending it through it, by we are not denying our desires, but understanding our desires and feeling them and discerning which ones are actually going to help us along the way to freedom for ourselves or to stop suffering at least, we're there. We are finally there. And where's the destination? Where is this there that we're talking about? And this there that we're talking about is literally here. Now. Right here, right now, in a state of pure being. And that if we have to take the roundabout way, which I have most of my life, of seeking things outside of us, seeking pleasure, desire outside of us, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. But what I'm saying is that it's going to happen one of two ways. You're either going to look outside of you for things, or you're going to look inside of you. Or you can do it both at the same time. I mean, not the exact same time, but you can realize this through words, or you can realize it through your own experience, or you can realize it by experiencing my words. However you want to do it, the point being is that you will transcend reality eventually. I want you to know this. You will transcend reality eventually, just like the collective will eventually. Will it be on Earth? Will it be right now? It's up to you, right? For you, because only you can control you, what you're doing right now. So this is the whole point, is that you can only control your own reality by giving up control. Ha! There it is! That's it. That's it. When you control reality by stopping and just letting go and just being okay, then this is the highest timeline. This is it. This is peace. And that peace was there the whole time. And this is why I'm saying this is what I said on Instagram, hey, I'm just gonna do this because I'm gonna try and give you a lesson, but you can't learn the lesson until you learn it. So if this is your learning, then awesome. But if it's not, then you're probably gonna have to learn it some other way. And it's not the only truth, but I'm saying unconditional love, and when you finally realize that you are free and that being is the complete freedom, and joy and gratitude are always here, and that love is always here, then there it is. And so I realized it through my own suffering, and a lot of us will, and I'm sure you have much in your life, but always realize that it has a purpose, that it has a lesson, it has a point, and that the point is to just completely teach you that you are enough. In one way, you are, in every way, you are enough. And you will always be enough. And then it's up to you to decide when you're going to realize that you're enough, and that what you do doesn't determine how good you are. That what you think determines how good you are, a lot of times, may need to be contemplated. And that the biggest realization, again, no biggest, so I don't know why I'm using that word, but the realization that I've come to is that it doesn't, we're here. We're here, and I'm in a loving state, and I'm doing my best to remain in a state. And I'm also going to share the moments that I'm not and how I got there. And that when I do this, you help others to reach this state, and then I'd rather do nothing else. I would rather do nothing else with my life. What else is worth doing than helping to serve others? I mean, we can have things that we desire, like I want to do, like I said, the retreat center. I want to help people in person. I want to publicly speak. I want to do these things. But it's all with the underlying service to others. And when we put out that echo, when we look into that mirror, when we put our when we're on that teeter totter and we start to do more in service to others, we're just going to get that service back. People are going to serve us because we're echoing service to others, and then other people are going to say, it's literally just like service to others, others, others. And there's like service to others, others, boom. People serve us. That's it. That's it. So I've given up mostly pretty much everything that I own, pretty much everything that I have, besides the equipment to serve others, in order to be here and do this. And most comforts I've given up. Like, it's freezing out here now. It's probably like 30 degrees. Feels like, at least. I've given this because I know that I'm doing my best to serve others, and I know that my being is enough, and that I would rather do nothing else. I'd rather be nowhere else than right here. And I'm asking you what you can do with your life. How can you be in your life to feel like you're enough? What is stopping you from feeling like you're enough? And this is the contemplation that I ask you to do tonight, right now, when you're watching this. Where in your life are you feeling like you're not enough? Where are you feeling like you're not doing enough? And why do you feel like you're not doing enough? Is there a perspective that you're doing pertains to how good you are? Right. There's so many deep realizations in there, so I'm going to leave you with that. Oh, it's been a great episode. We've been going. Hey, you can still see me. Oh, my hair's a little bit messed up. That's the way she goes. Friends, family, beautiful beings. It's been a great video here in Sedona. Hope you enjoyed. And this will be on. The next thing I'm going to do after this is get them on Spotify. Make sure they're up on Spotify. I've got so much more coming. I've got music coming. Oh, baby, it's going to be so good. The music is going to be so good. I'm so excited to start along that journey, to continue these live streams, to get the clips from the live streams, post them, and just help do my part in knowing that my worth is not based on that. That even if I didn't do anything, me being here is enough. My vibration is so powerful by itself. And that my being will always be enough. So, all right. It's been real. I will see you in the next. Thanks for watching. That'll do her.